up you phonies, how's it going? Welcome to another Blender video. Today we're going to talk about green screen, the things to look out for when you work with green screen and if you want to use it in your Blender scenes. Because I still see too many people out there who use a green screen just not correctly. And just with a few adjustments you can make it so much better. And that's what this video is for. As a VFX artist, it happens very often that you get green screen footage and you have to make a 3D scene around it. And also very often you don't know how this green screen was lit. You don't know where the lights are coming from. You don't know what color temperature they have. You just have to eyeball it, and it can be very difficult. But if you're just aware of it, it's already helpful. Because it's really a luxury if you shoot your own green screen footage, because then you know exactly how you lit it. And really, if you are in charge, I would recommend build your CG scene first, because then you know how you have to light your green screen accordingly, because you just do it the same way you lit your CG scene. But today we're gonna do the other way around. Let's assume someone sent me a green screen clip and I have to edit it and put it into a 3D environment. That's the green screen footage we're working with. As you can see, it's my own green screen. I lit it myself. It's me in there wearing my sweatpants and this ridiculous coat. And I can see I have two light sources from the right and one from the back. This one is my rim light. And I know, because I shot it, this one is blue and this one is warm. The light here on the right, it only lit my green screen, so I can't technically ignore that one. But this one is important. This one is 5600, I can even read it here, and this one is probably around 3200 Kelvin. But the first step is to key our footage, and I'm gonna do that not in Blender. I like to do that in After Effects because I feel like you just have more control, and I know people who do that in Blender itself, but for me personally it's not right. I feel like After Effects or Nuke is better for it, but it's really up to you. The workflow is very similar, so you can just use whatever you want. So let's bring our footage into After Effects. This is After Effects. I'm gonna double click here and find my footage. Here it is. It's shot on 4K 23.976 frames per second. I'm gonna import it into the new composition. Now I'm gonna find the spot where I want the action to be. It's easier to go from the end. This is the last frame I need, let's say here, just in case. I'm gonna cut this. I'm gonna see where the scene is actually starting. Here I'm still getting ready. Let's keep that too. Delete that. In case you don't know, to make a cut in After Effects, you hold Control, Shift, and then D. Then you're gonna make a cut. Now I'm trimming my composition because I don't need it to be longer than that. Great. Now the first step is we need to get rid of our green. How do we do this? I duplicate my footage. So I have the same video twice on top of each other. The one on top, I color correct, use curves, and just increase the contrast. So it's easier to distinguish what is green and what is not green. Now the more important effect is coming now. You go under keying and key light 1.2. Now we're gonna pick a green, let's say like a darker one, this one. If we remove our background layer, like this is underneath, same video, but you know, underneath, when we remove it, we can already see, okay, the green is removed, but obviously not perfectly, and also it removes parts of myself or of your subject, and that's not what we want. To get a better idea of what we're doing, let's switch the key light effect from final result to screen matte. Now our job is to create a black and white mask. Everything what is white we want to stay visible. Everything what is black we want to disappear. So we're gonna increase our screen gain just a little bit, and under screen matte we can clip the whites, and all we do is really to increase the contrast on our mask. And we go down with clip white, go up with clip black, and down with clip white, until we have a solid mask here. Where I'm standing, obviously this is not going to be perfect because the way the green screen looks, it is very, I didn't do a good job like flattening the green screen. That's why it's so crazy down here, but it's going to be fine in the end. I'm going to make sure in my Blender scene that it's going to be very noisy where my feet are, so it's going to be fine. But let's just correct it as good as we can. Increase the contrast, keep increasing it. Sweet. Now we can adjust the screen softness just a little. It's soften the edges a little. We shrink the mask a little so it goes inside my body just a tiny bit. And now we're going to keep it on screen matte, but the bottom layer we turn back on. We use the track matte, we use the pick whip, and pick whip the top layer. Now under Alpha Luma matte, just click on this. That's going to remove the green screen, and that is already the first step. Now we just need to draw a garbage matte around everything what we don't need. So it's basically everything around here, all that, the lights and the rest of the green screen, the rest of the room we don't need. So we're going to draw a rough garbage matte, and preferably as far away from our subject as possible, because he might be interfering with it. Here we can see I drew the mask too close to my foot, so here I need to fix it. So this is our green screen key. It's not great, but also I didn't do a good job like flattening out the green screen and whatnot. That's why it's very important to light your green screen properly. But that's the world we live in. Like it happens very often that you have shadows on your green screen and stuff like that. So it's never perfect, and you have to, as a VFX artist, you have to figure it out. And that's what I'm doing here. Make it as good as possible, but also keep in mind in the end, what are you actually gonna see? Are you gonna see all of this in your shot? If not, then don't worry about it. If you do see all of this, then you can rotoscope this part out manually, and then you're good too. Anyways, if you're satisfied, you have to render it out. Go to composition, pre-render, give it a name, and very important, when you render it, go click on this, click on format, and you can render it as a PNG sequence, which would be actually preferable, but also QuickTime will work, and ProRes, Apple ProRes 444, and then make sure Alpha and RGB is both selected, and then hit on render. Once it's rendered, you can't really watch it because it's like such a high quality, but this is what it looks like, and that's pretty cool. Now we are in Blender. I start my Blender scenes usually with the camera and my little Mihao here just for reference. I'm going to keep him there for now because I know exactly how tall my 3D model is because it's a scan, and I know how tall I am. And if I just received this footage from someone, I would ask, hey, how tall is this person, so I can adjust the size of my green screen character to the actual size. I can adjust the scale, and that's very important if you use other models. So for now, I'm going to pretend this is my green screen footage, and I'm going to adjust my camera. For that, I'm going to look at my reference again. I try to figure out how high was the camera, and it's somewhere on hip level. And I want to adjust that the same way with my 3D camera, otherwise the perspective is going to be weird. And again, you can eyeball it if you don't know exactly, but somewhere around like the belly button, that's the height of the camera. Also the focal length, it's 24 millimeters, and I'm going to do the same thing with my 3D camera. So I click on my 3D camera, go in focal length, 24 millimeter. This is my camera here, and now I'm going to go super close to my Mihao, have the camera on like belly button level. That's great. And now I'm going to move it away, but it's the right height, and the feet were a little cut off, so that's going to be my perspective. Now, in order to import your green screen, it is very simple. What you need to do is you want to import your green screen as images, as planes. And the way you do that is you hold Shift A, just like you import anything else, go down to image and images as planes. If you don't have that here, which is very likely if you've never used it before, go on Edit, Preferences, under Add-ons, type in Images, and for me it's selected already. If it's not for you, select it, and then click on those three things and save preferences. Then you should have it here. Now we're going to import our model, our green screen, image, images as planes. Now we need to find what we just exported from After Effects. And that is our green screen footage, obviously, right? No, it's not obvious because we don't see anything, because we are in solid view. We want to be in the EV viewport. Now you can see him down here already, pretty cool. I'm gonna do the same thing on my top layer, because this is my top viewport, because this is the actual one where we look through the camera. And now we see, okay, he's like very in the ground, and we're gonna bring him up to the right height and also to the right size. So I want him to touch the ground, just like my green screen character, but I also don't want myself to be bigger, because I know I am a little shorter, especially my posture is a little smaller, not that small. So I try to adjust it as close as possible to the right height. So obviously from the side it doesn't look like much, it looks pretty shitty actually, but from the camera view it looks perfect. So even the problems with my green screen I had, it's gonna look like it's part of the ground if the camera is not moving too much. So we adjusted the camera, now let's adjust the lighting. For that we're gonna go into cycles. In cycles we actually see our lighting. Since we don't have any lights, it's completely black. And that's great. And to adjust the lighting, I'm gonna keep my Miho here, because he's actually gonna receive lights because he's a 3D object. Our guy here is not gonna receive any lights because he's just a plane. So again, a reminder where the cameras are, where the lights are, we have a blue light from the back and the left, and a warm light from the right. And we're gonna do the same thing. With Shift A, we can make another light. Let's make it an area light, because that's what my other light is. Bring it around the same position where my other light was and point it at me. Here on the top you can already see there's a light going on, but it's way too weak and it's also not the right color, so let's make it stronger. That could be it. Let's look at our guy here. It's kind of a similar edge. I'm not getting it so much on my feet, more on my upper body. So let's bring it a little up. Maybe let's make it a little smaller. Still getting it on his feet. Let's make it a little smaller. Rotate it up. Let's bring it a little closer, because I believe it was closer. Sometimes it's easier to adjust those things in top view. That's what I'm doing right now. Great, that should be good enough. Now we have to adjust it to blue, because that's what my other light was. And now we need a light from the front as well. So Shift A, light. Let's make it another area light. Let's bring it to the right position. It was somewhere here. It was higher. It was around head level, and rotate it towards my object. And this one, I believe, is way weaker. But we're looking at my jacket here and his shirt, if it makes the same kind of shadows. And I believe the light was a little closer this way. Rotate it in. So try to adjust it as close as possible. And this one was also warmer. Okay, now you have two different methods to make your green screen appear. One is having it actually regular material like anything else. That would mean that you have to adjust it just like any other material. In the node editor you have here your green screen, and here things like metallic. I could make a metallic, but that would be wrong, because now he would be reflecting a lot. And I could make specular, like roughness, all that. But I figured it looks way better if you adjust it if it's emissive. So I delete the node and make an emission node instead. Connect the color to my color and the emission node to the surface. So now it just appears the same way, the exact same way, the way it was in my green screen footage. Okay, the problem is our black came back. It's not transparent anymore. You can see it on my Miho that he's like half in there and half not. The reason for that is the emission node doesn't understand alphas. So we have to recreate the alpha, which we have here. We just have to put it into the output as well. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to make another node, Shift A, transparent, put it on top, hold Control, Shift, right click on emission, and combine it with transparent. Now it made another node, the mix shader. Now we can use the alpha, and we rendered our green screen with an alpha just for that purpose. So we can bring the alpha into the factor of our mix shader. And now the green screen is actually a green screen or transparent. You can see that here very well. So now if you believe that you made everything correctly, you are basically done with your green screen, and you can now build your environment the way you want, as long as you keep those two light sources. If for whatever reason you have to remove them, you have to replace them with something. Let's say I have to remove this one, but I can't just delete it, because now I'm gonna lose the light here from the right, and you could see that in your environment. So instead of just removing it, replace it with a practical light. If it's a street scene, put a street light there, or if it's a living room scene, then put a desk lamp there. But you understand the concept. You want to simulate the 3D environment lighting just the way it was shot on the green screen to make the effect sell. So now I'm gonna build a little environment, and you can watch me and you're gonna see what I mean by that. Okay, our environment is somewhat done. It's nothing special, it's just for demonstration, like tutorial purposes, but you get the idea. Now we have an environment, and the environment is lit just like our green screen guy is lit. And the cool thing is, he even throws a shadow, which is also a nice fact. He's moving in here. The shadow is not going to be 100% accurate because it is a flat image, but at least you have something there which is also interacting with our environment, which is cool. Now I positioned this guy right in front of a window because I could make something appear outside this window. He's looking out of this window, and maybe a plane is about to fly in there. So let's do that. This is our plane, and now we're gonna animate it that it's gonna fly towards our guy. Just so I can see more here, I'm gonna have a sunlight. So that's what I was talking about. Instead of the area light I was having here, I'm gonna use a sunlight instead to simulate the moon. And then I can remove the area light. So Shift A, light, sun, and bring it into the same direction where our area light was. We're gonna need a little, we need to extend our little house a little. Let's make a plane that we have some kind of ground. Give it a material. Now our sunlight also has to be blue because that's what our room light was. So it could be like darkness outside, like nighttime. I'm gonna also give it like a HDRI light, not really for the lighting, more so that I have some kind of environment going on because I don't really feel like building anything. A world. I'm gonna go down with the warmth, that it's bluer. Maybe also change the rotation a little, because I don't really want to see much, just something which is not distracting, and go down with the strength. One thing what you might want to do is under the area light inside, for example, because I can see it in the reflection of my window, and I obviously don't want it because there is not a light source. So what I'm gonna do is remove it from the volume scatter, the transmission, and gloss, so it only shows the diffuse, so it only throws the actual light, and that's what we actually need. So let's position our plane here, if that's even a good idea. Let's bring it to the end position. Let's rotate it a little closer, right with the tip right here. So this is going to be the end frame. Let's have this animation 200 frames long. Location, rotation, keyframe. Now I'm gonna go further the first frame and bring it far out. Y, make another keyframe, T, linear. Now when we look at it, we obviously can't watch it in like full speed, but we can see that the plane is coming closer and closer into the house, and my character here is like super scared, and eventually it's gonna crash into it. Now I told you that I had my camera placement and everything set, but there is a little wiggle room. So now for this particular shot, I want the camera to start far and be a little closer to the ground so we can see our plane better. And that is very okay. You can adjust it a little. So now in the first frame, we're going to animate that. Location, maybe rotation 2. Go to our last frame, 200. Get closer to our subject, maybe a little to the right. Let's do it here, and hit I and I to animate it. Hit T, and now we have a moving shot. Camera is moving, it's very cinematic. Very cool. I don't like how slow the plane is moving. I feel like it would be faster. Let's correct that real quick. And also our green screen guy reacts a little too early for my taste. So let's go in our green screen node and we can offset the framing. Yeah, we only have 140 frames total. So if we start at frame 55, so this is where actually our animation is going to start from now on. Frame 55 till 200. Let's say 60 just in case. And the very last step, which is very important, don't forget to do that. If you have a camera movement, like in my case, you want to add a constraint to your green screen footage. That means your green screen footage, let's say this is your green screen footage, this is your camera. The camera, when the camera is moving, doesn't matter where the camera is moving, your green screen is always going to move with your camera. And we have to do that manually by using a constraint. For that, you click on Object Constraint Properties, Add Object Constraint, and Track to. Now this constraint is on our green screen footage, but we're gonna, as a target, use the camera. Now right now it's -Z, we want it to be +Z. So nothing changed, but now when we look through this window here, while the camera is moving, our green screen layer is always adjusting. And in that case, it might not be a big difference, but you do want to do that always. Otherwise, if the camera is gonna go to the side for whatever reason, suddenly you're not gonna see your green screen footage anymore because it's just a plane. It's not a 3D model, it's just a plane. And if you do need to adjust the colors of your green screen footage, you can do that by, in the nodes between the emission and your green screen, add a node, for example, curves, RGB curves, put it in between, and now you can adjust it so it's gonna look like it belongs in your footage. If it's too warm, bring the reds down, and so on. Now I'm gonna adjust the lighting a little. I'm gonna add a few objects to make this house look more like a house, because right now it's very empty, and then we get this result. So I hope that was helpful. I hope everything was understandable. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments below, and see you in the next video. Oh, send me your VFX shots. I'm really interested to see what you guys are up to. So thank you so much, and see ya. Toodaloo.